So let us look at the verse that we just chanted. Very wonderful verse. So, although this is describing the Ashtanga Yoga process, as we have been studying for the last several verses, but there are many concepts here that apply in Krishna consciousness very directly, in Bhakti Yoga as well, very, very directly. The concepts are more easily achieved, as Prabhupada says in the last line of the purport, easily achieved in Krishna consciousness. But then, as you shall see, for some reason, we don't find it so easy to achieve, although we are following Krishna consciousness. So let us see, first let us understand the verse. Let us understand what are these concepts that should be the state that should be easily achieved in Krishna consciousness. And then see what are the barriers for us to achieve that state. So the verse is very simple, beautiful. Shanaihi Shanaihi Uparamed Buddhya Dhriti Grihitya Atma Samstam Manakritva Na Kinchidapi Chintayat. Each of these 4 lines is saying something distinct. Usually they are all mixed up. In Sanskrit, the poetic expression is not easy to understand because the words are sequence are mixed up. But here it is very, very straight, given in a very straight way. Shanaihi Shanaihi Uparamed. Shanaihi Shanaihi is gradually, step by step. So gradually, Shanaihi Shanaihi. Uparamed, if you see the word-to-word translation, it says one should hold back. One should hold back. So what is the meaning of holding back here? One should hold back sense gratification. So gradually, step by step, one should become free from the material conception. One should become free from material activities or sense gratificatory activities. How? Buddhya dhriti grihiteya. So buddhya is intelligence. Dhriti grihiteya is translated as carried by conviction. And in the, that is word-to-word translation. If you see the translation below, it is said, intelligence sustained by full conviction. So intelligence is buddhya, sustained by full conviction. So there is a intelligence at play that allows us to decide if an activity is conducive for our spiritual advancement or it is unfavorable for spiritual advancement. And that intelligence is backed, is situated on the platform of full conviction, dhriti grihitya. So it is not just bookish intelligence, bookish knowledge that says that, okay, this activity is sense gratification, I should not do it. But then the desire to perform the activity remains. But one is artificially restraining. That is not the case here. Shanaihi Shanaihi Uparmet Buddhya Dhriti Grihitya means there is a complete conviction in what we are doing. Whatever it is that reason why we should not do something, let us say that some activity is not conducive to spiritual advancement, then that activity is gradually stopped based on 2 factors. One factor is the knowledge that it is not favorable, but that knowledge is based on complete conviction, full conviction. And then Atma Samstham Manakritva. So the mind should become fixed. Atma Samstham. Atma Samstham is placed in transcendence. That is in the word-to-word translation. And in the full translation, it is said, thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone. The self alone. So placed in transcendence and fixed in self alone, they are both same in meaning. We will see that. Atma Samstham Manakritva. Na kinchidapi chintayet. And should not think of anything else. Na kinchidapi. Anything, kinchit, not anything else. Not even little bit one should think of anything else. Then that is the state of Samadhi. That is the state of Samadhi. So when one achieves this state gradually, it's a gradual process. Shanaihi Shanaihi Uparamed. It is not sudden process. It is not that one day you start. This is, remember, this is description of Ashtanga Yoga process, Dhyana Yoga process. So here the beginning stages are Yama and Niyama. As Bhagavad Tattva Prabhu explained last time, previous multiple times, Yama are the restrictions, the forbidden activities. Niyama are the regulated activities that you are allowed to perform. Then there is asana, then various sitting postures to regulate the body and senses. And then you have the pranayama to regulate the breathing. And then pratyahara. So pratyahara, there is a description of that in today's purport also. Controlling the senses, controlling activities, unnecessary activities, completely ceasing all the sense gratificatory activities, complete stop to all the sense gratificatory activities. Dharana, that is concentrating the mind. Dharana, then dhyana, meditation, that is also described in today's, mentioned in today's purport. Then samadhi, dharana, concentration, meditation, then complete trance. So starting with gradually controlling the senses, gradually completely coming to a stop of putting a stop to all sense gratificatory activities, all external activities, activities that wherein ordinarily the mind is looking for sense gratification in external objects, shutting out all of that. And that is the pratyahara process. Then concentrating the mind on one object, one thing, then going forward, proceeding to the stage of meditation, and then completely fixing the mind on the self alone, internally, inwardly looking, achieving a trance. So this is the Ashtanga Yoga process that is being described. And now let us look at what the purport is saying one more time. So the first thing the purport is starting is with the progression from Pratyahara to Samadhi. So we just discussed that. By proper conviction and intelligence, one should gradually cease sense activities. This is called Pratyahara. The mind being controlled by conviction, meditation, and cessation from senses should be situated in trance or Samadhi. So this is the gradual progression from the stage of stopping unwanted activities to the stage of trance or seeing, completely being fixed in the self. Mind being controlled by conviction, meditation, and cessation from senses should be situated in trance or Samadhi. So this concept of Samadhi, Prabhupada has described elsewhere also in Bhagavad Gita. Samadho na vidhiyate. That is Bhogaishwarya Prasaktanam Taya Apaharita Chetasa Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Samadho na vidhiyate. That is a person who is, but we will come to that part, but in the purport of this verse, there is also a definition of Samadhi and in other places also. The Prabhupada describes Samadhi as being fixed up in the mind. When the mind is totally fixed up in the self, Prabhupada gives an example. When you say being fixed up in the self, what does it mean? Being fixed up in self means simultaneously seeing the self and the supreme self. Simultaneously seeing the self and the supreme self, or the super soul, Paramatma, or the supreme Lord. So the example given is that when it is dark, let us say it is night time, and suddenly you wake up, maybe you're thirsty, or suddenly there is some problem, you suddenly wake up. And then you look around, you're not able to see much at all, because it's totally dark, pitch dark. You're not even able to see your own body. Whatever it is that you may be thinking, I am this, I am that, in the dream, let us say before you wake up, in the dream, you might have been something else. You might have been a bird, you might have been flying in the dream, or you might have been a young boy in the school, but actually you're grown up. But in the dream, you might be something else. And when you wake up, you don't know whether you're a young boy or you're confused. But whatever the confusion is, you cannot see your body because it's so dark. But the moment you switch on the light, or the moment there is daylight, the sun comes up, and then you're able to see the sun. You're able to see yourself also. You're able to see all the object around you. You're able to see everybody around you. So being fixed up in the self, seeing the self, means seeing the supreme self and the self and everything else. So one should be able to see, one will be able to see when a person is stated as being in Samadhi, or when a person is said to be fixed in the self. At that point, that person will be able to see not only the self, but also the Supreme Self. And complete knowledge, everything will become revealed. So that is the significance of being situated in the trance, because sometimes people think that being situated in the self means, and that is often described as the highest state, being situated in the self. So that can be easily misunderstood to mean that it is a process or it is a state of understanding where there is no differentiation, or there is no qualitative difference or a quantitative difference or any kind of difference between the self and the Supreme Lord. So, of course, there is no qualitative difference between the self and the Supreme Lord. But in the state of this trance or Samadhi, one is able to see the self, it means one is able to see the self in relation to the Supreme Lord. So one is able to see the Lord and us, and the relationship between us and the activities between us can start at that point. So at the point when you're able to see that, oh, there is a Supreme Lord and I am eternal, the Supreme Lord is eternal, and I have an eternal relationship with the Lord, then the activities in Krishna consciousness begin. So that is why Prabhupada says that this is very directly achieved in Krishna consciousness, because the expectation from a pure devotee is that this should be the beginning of Krishna consciousness, that immediately one should come to this platform and immediately stop all the activities. But of course, there is a process also given when you say immediately. How it is immediate? It is by immediately taking to the process that leads to this. And it should be expected that this state will be reached very soon if the process is followed properly. Now we will see what the process is and what is a special place of conviction and intelligence in the process as well. But let us then go forward and see what Prabhupada says further in the purport. At that time, there is no longer any danger of becoming engaged in the material conception of life. In other words, although one is involved with the matter, as long as the material body exists, one should not think about sense gratification. One should think of no pleasure aside from pleasure of the Supreme Self. And how Prabhupada has created this wonderful program for his disciples, all those that are attempting to follow Krishna consciousness, following in the footsteps of Prabhupada and following his instructions. How Prabhupada has created this system by which actually if one follows it sincerely, then immediately one comes to this platform of not thinking of sense gratification. Although it is Shanai, it is gradual, but how a massive stride is taken in the very beginning itself. And how is that? If you follow Prabhupada's instruction, then there is a sadhana bhakti process that is laid out. There is a process, there is a scientific process of achieving this Shanai gradually, step by step. What is a step-by-step process? So in a scientific experiment, if you were to perform, if some of us remember from our laboratory days, there would be a stage where you have to take precautions. So first you have to wear a lab coat or something like that. You wear gloves, lab coat, you clear your space, and then make sure that if you're going to perform some electrical, then you wear rubber gloves, make sure your shoes are wooden shoes or something like that, you're standing on wood. Or if it's a chemical experiment, then take different precautions, wear proper gloves, different kind of gloves, and then you have to wear a lab coat that is thick so that when chemicals spill on you, there's no danger. So you have to protect yourself. And then you follow the step-by-step process that is given in the manual, that you take one chemical, you mix the other chemical, and then result comes. And sometimes it may take multiple iterations. Maybe you may make a mistake. Maybe it says in step number 3, you have to stir continuously while putting some other chemical drop by drop. And by mistake, one drop may fall outside. So then the results won't come. Then you have to again repeat the process. Sometimes you have not put sufficient, maybe while measuring chemical, you have made a mistake. But the result is guaranteed if you follow the process properly. So similarly, in the Krishna consciousness also, there is a scientific step-by-step process that when you follow that right from the beginning, Adau, Shraddha, Tatah sadhu sangha. So first one must have faith, as we saw in the last class, that this process will lead us to the result. And the question becomes, but I'm lacking that faith because I'm engaged in all the material sense gratificatory activities. I am living to gratify my senses. I wake up in the morning and I'm seeing how I can satisfy my senses, not only for today, but I'm planning for future also. I'm planning short term, long term, medium term, everything is planned for how my sense gratification can be preserved, how it can be increased. Entire life's plan is made on that. And there is no faith that there is any scientific or science. It's all just blind, superstitious things that people with no other work, they are burden on the society. They don't want to work, and they have created all these things so that they can sit and enjoy all the donations coming from somebody else. This is how the mind is thinking. So how do we get out of this? If we don't have the faith, Ado Shraddha, the first step, if you're not able to take the first step, if you're not able to say that, oh, this manual, if I follow, my whatever that acid and base titration will, the midpoint will be reached and the color will change. Right in the pipette, I don't remember those terms now, but I remember that when you take acid and base, the equal quantity, it will change color at some point. And from that, you can make out what is the concentration of the acid, right? Or what is the pH level or something you can make out. But if you don't have faith in that, you won't even enter the laboratory, correct? So there's no question of being able to find out the acidity or the alkalinity of a chemical. So how do you start? So this is where faith is infused upon us by devotees. By associating with devotees, there is a little bit of increase in faith. But even if one does not have faith for that, then there is a little bit of introspection that one must do to see where is my faith currently and what is that faith leading to. Because we have faith in something. We have faith that our planning for sense gratification is going to yield rich dividend. We are going to be able to enjoy so much because of the activities we are undertaking. And similarly, look at my neighbor. He has also done so many sense gratificatory activities. He is also enjoying. So like this, we have got some faith. So this faith, we have to examine and introspect. Now, this introspection, it doesn't always happen. Particularly if a person is temporarily in a state, because after all, this world is certified as Anityam Asukham Lokam. Anityam Asukham Lokam. It is temporary and full of miseries, Asukham. But even in this temporary world, there could be temporary sukha that will come. So when a person is enjoying the temporary sukha for a while, and he is not able to see that, okay, I am enjoying temporary sukha, but is everybody else enjoying temporary sukha? Are we not seeing so many people in our society who are suffering, at least temporarily? They were also enjoying temporarily, but now the temporary enjoyment is over. Either they are having some disease, or somebody has, their family is having some disease, or if nothing, everybody is getting old and they're passing away. So at least this much we should be able to see. If a person cannot have any understanding of gold, then how he can go buy gold? So a little bit of intelligence is necessary for us to look at our pathetic condition, actually, and introspect and see that our faith is on such a shaky ground, that we are having faith in objects of sense gratification, which are so temporary in nature. And we are also able to see that all the other people that are around us, they have also similarly put their faith in these things, and they have also failed. For some time, they have got some enjoyment. Then, even if you go to watch a movie, sometimes you see that interval itself, headache will come. And then you have to get out of that movie. So, simple things like watching a movie, you're not able to get the enjoyment. Then where is the question of finding enjoyment and amassing so much of wealth, thinking that there is financial security in a retirement fund or in various other counteraction measures that we are taking? So a little bit of introspection will reveal the shaky ground on which our current faith is standing. So with the help of this little bit of intelligence, if we are able to see this little bit of intelligence, and with that we are able to see that our current faith is on shaky ground, then we should ask, oh, if I cannot have faith in this method of sense enjoyment, then should I just be satisfied with whatever sense enjoyment I should get and accept the dukkha that is coming? Or is it possible? Is there a different kind of faith? Is there a different system where these kind of temporary problems are not there? Where there is no need to suffer from old age, where there is no need to suffer from hunger, thirst, lack of resources, lack of comfort, and lack of health. Is there such a state at all? This questioning should happen. Why am I put into suffering? Why is somebody else put into suffering? Why my future, I cannot make it suffering proof? The moment one starts asking this question, athato brahma jigyasa, that is the starting point of a person's inquiry. So once you have that inquiry, then one comes in contact with, by fortune, by good fortune. There is no prior reason for it, but because the devotees of the Lord are so merciful, they are so compassionate. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitaram pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. The Vaishnavas are kripa sindubhya evacha. They are ocean of mercy. So because the Vaishnavas are so merciful, so compassionate, they are constantly trying to preach the glories of the Lord. They're constantly trying to pull the people out of their ocean of suffering. And in this process, if you are fortunate enough to come in contact with a Vaishnava, with a sadhu, then the faith that the sadhu has in the scientific process of devotional service will get transferred to us if we are simply sincere and open-minded in our inquiry. We don't have to have the faith. We simply have to be truly inquisitive. A person is truly inquisitive with an open mind. When he associates with the sadhu, then immediately there is a transference of faith that will happen. So, but this will not happen if we have got blockers, if we are not associating properly, but we are simply meeting that person. But then even before the person begins to start, we already have arguments in our mind on why everything is about to say is wrong. Why everything that is about to say actually is not true. And we are simply seeking to validate our own ideas that are already in our head, which in the back of our mind, we know it is wrong. But because of the deep conditioning and the deep conviction that we have in those false ideas, that becomes a block in associating with the sadhu, even when we get a chance to meet a devotee. So the first step is one has to have the intelligence to understand the shaky ground on which our faith is currently placed. And the second is one should realize our convictions that are so deeply held over time, recognize it, and keep that conviction aside for a moment, at least during the period when we are associating with the sadhu. Those deep-rooted convictions, they are there for such time immemorial that it is not very easy for us to just discard it in a moment because it is so deep-rooted. We are not even aware that they are there. Those deep-rooted convictions in the belief that certain activities will give us joy, those convictions, they are very, very deep-rooted. So we should know with intelligence that yes, I have those convictions. But I know that those convictions are not going to actually give me happiness because we see that everybody around us, they are suffering. And yet that conviction is there. It's a contradiction. So this is our conditioned state. This is why it is called conditioned state or illusioned state, because we are able to, on one hand, see that conviction is completely unfounded. It has got no logical basis. And yet, on the other hand, we are not able to overcome that conviction. We are not able to take it away. So just simply being aware that we have got these false convictions will allow us to lower that block a little bit for the little bit of Shraddha, a little bit of faith that is present. Actually, Vaishnava is the ocean of faith. They have got unlimited faith. But because of our block, our mental block, our deep-rooted convictions in our false pleasure belief, that prevents that Shraddha or that faith to transfer to us. But to the extent that we are able to lower this guard on the conviction, to that extent we will be able to absorb the Shraddha or the faith that is there in the Vaishnava, and we are able to take advantage of the association. Now, I want to tell you a story about 4 animals and 1 little girl. These are 4 different stories, 5 different stories, small stories. The first story I think you might have heard. how these deep-rooted convictions, they're all stories about convictions that are arising from various experiences that an individual has in different types of bodies. So you might have heard of this story of Indra the pig. Indra is once cursed to become a pig for a brief period of time. So unfortunate for Indra, where he offends somebody and he is cursed to become a pig. So he comes to the earth and he becomes a pig. And as soon as he gets a pig body, he starts to act like a pig. He has completely forgotten that he has been Indra, the king of all the heavenly planets. He's completely forgotten that. And he becomes like an ordinary stool-eating pig. And then he is born as a pig, baby pig. Gradually eats a lot of stool and becomes nice, fat, big, young, youthful pig, full of energy. And he finds one pig girl, and then they have a lot of children. And he gets nicely attached to his family. He is taking care of his family along with his she pig, and all the children are very much attached to him. Papa, Papa, hamare liye kya laye? Like that they will ask. And then he will say, oh, I got this stool from the neighborhood, Nala, something like that, right? A nice family life is going on. And then one day, time is over, the pig curse period gets over, but he's still youthful, he's not old or something like that, but just that his period is over. And then there are people from the heavenly planets who come down to receive him and say, Mr. Indra, you have to come here, you're pig, you're actually not a pig, you're actually the king of heaven, let us go back. And the pig is taken aback. What are you talking about? What heaven? What are you saying? I'm happy here. I'm not coming anywhere. I've got so many duties to perform. All these children, they're waiting for more stool. I have to go collect it. Only half the stock is done. Please don't get in my way. Get out of my way. I have to go. And then they all try to convince him. They say, no, no, no. What is this? You're fallen into this condition of a pig and you're completely forgotten. You've got a much better life ahead of you. And you are such and such a person. You have become like this. And this pig is not convinced. It thinks that they're going to take him away on the side. They will take away the she pig. They will kidnap all the children. And then they are trying to cheat him like that. He starts to think. And he's resisting. He's not going back to the kingdom. Somehow they pull him and then they take him back. So this story illustrates how very quickly we get attracted to the environment around us, how we get attached to our family, what we consider as our duties, how we get attached to what we consider as pleasurable activities, and how we get addicted to these activities. And we cannot give it up. Even if there is a much higher, much better situation that is in front of us, but we cannot give up this. This is our state. This pig state, we are also having the same state. Second animal is a camel. This camel lives in the desert. And in the desert, one of the most commonly available vegetation is a cactus. So camel has no choice but to eat cactus. But in fact, if a person is in the camel body, the situation is he very much looks forward to eating the cactus. And this cactus is a plant which has many thorns in the plant. And so there's a picture that is shown here. If you can see closely, there are a lot of thorns in this cactus plant. So ordinarily for us, if we think of eating a cactus, we'll think twice. Maybe if you've got a peeler, you can peel all the thorns out and peel the skin, and maybe you can make some soup and drink. But camel does not have such facility. Camel will simply, if you give a cactus or it just, from the cactus plant, it will go bite and it will start munching. And when it eats that cactus, the thorns, they prick the tongue of the camel and blood starts to ooze out. The camel is blissfully unaware of this. And this blood, when it is mixing with the cactus juice and goes down the taste buds of camel, it thinks, oh, what a wonderful taste. Oh, this cactus is tasting so nice. It is like a little bit like mixing maybe tomato puree in some palak paneer. You make palak and you mix some tomato, maybe some slightly different taste comes. So like that, its own blood is getting mixed with its own food And that it is relishing. And then after the food is over, maybe later at night or in the morning, when the food is all over and it's just feeling, oh, what is happening to my tongue? Why there are some sores in my mouth? Oh, this desert is so hot. I'm maybe all the sun is making it. I should go and sit in some shade. It is completely unaware that the cactus which it ate, the thorns in the cactus is what is poking. There's no awareness, and it's again and again going and eating that cactus. So this is the state of a camel. Example of camel that is given in our shastras. That there is such deep-rooted conviction that this cactus is going to give me enjoyment. And it has no awareness of how the same very cactus, the same source of enjoyment, is also the result, is also the cause of all the suffering that the camel is undergoing. And another example is a goat. This goat has a very unique characteristic. You might be aware that there are times when people all over the world, they take the goat sometimes for sacrifice or for slaughter. Or even if it's not for sacrifice nowadays, just like that, they will slaughter the goat and cook some meat out of that and sell it to the market. So the goat is taken for slaughter. And when the goat is taken for slaughter, goat is able to smell the blood and the killing of the other goats. And it becomes aware of its impending death. And it becomes extremely afraid. It does not want to take even one step forward. Somehow the person who's taking it for sacrifice has to practically carry it, has to drag it against its wishes. Because the goat becomes aware that, no, my death is coming. I can smell the death. I can smell the blood of other goats. There is danger here. It comes to know. So now, how does this... and then sometimes that goat has to be kept there for some time before its turn comes for slaughter. So it is bleating very pitifully. Now that creates a nuisance. So the goat keepers, what they do, they put a little bit of grass in front of the goat. So when the goat gets a little bit of grass, what does the goat do? It starts happily eating the grass. Completely forgets that it's about to die. Completely forgets that it's about to be slaughtered mercilessly, and happily starts munching on the grass. So the impending doom, the impending suffering, that is even such a grave calamity that is just around the corner, is unable to take away the addiction of sense enjoyment from this pitiable animal. And we are not very different from this. Our death may come any moment. All around us we see people are dying untimely deaths at all ages. They are dying from accidents, they are dying at any time. Nobody can say that, oh, I am 50 years old, I have got another 50 years to live. Can anybody say that? That, oh, I'm 40 years old, only 40% of my life is over. Can anyone say that with confidence? We cannot say. Any moment, death may come. Death is right around the corner. But still, if somebody is able to give us one drop of honey from somewhere, one little bit of pleasure-giving situation, we immediately grab it with both the hands. We completely forget about our impending doom. And then this other next animal is the parrot. Let us say that we are able, somebody tells us that, oh, you know, you're actually much better life ahead of you. Why are you why are you trying to enjoy these basal pleasures like this pig? Don't look at these uncivilized basal pleasures. There's a much better, Vaikuntha Loka is there, Krishna Loka is there, so much permanent eternal life is there. There will be no worry, no tension, no disease, no death. And somebody tells us. And then we say, oh, yeah. Oh, okay. So Vaikuntha Loka means no disease, no death. Krishna Loka means no eternal life. So very good. Thank you. And then we carry on with eating stool. So this kind of a thing, this is like a parrot repeating some words without understanding what it is saying. Recently, some of our devotees had gone to one temple, ISKCON temple in Utah, Salt Lake City. And there was a parrot which was there. And anybody who enters that parrot area, the parrot will look at that person and say, Hare Krishna Prabhu. And another person comes, Hare Krishna Prabhu. It will say like that. And probably it has different words also, different situations, it knows what to say. But does it really understand that there's a master, Hare Krishna, Krishna, does not understand anything, simply repeating. So if a person were to theoretically repeat some of the words that he has heard, that, oh, there is Krishna as a Supreme Lord, I am eternal servant of Krishna, I am part and parcel of Krishna. Actually, this world is anityam asukam lokam. It is dukhalayam ashasutam. There is no actual sukha here. And my goal should be to go back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, I should engage in devotional service. All that he'll repeat in class. But then you go home and you completely follow whatever activities you're doing. Absolutely no change in life. And every moment, person is looking for objects of pleasure. This is the state of the parrot. So we don't want to be the pig. We don't want to be the camel. We don't want to be the goat. We don't want to be the parrot. So who should we want to be? What should be the nature of our conviction? What should be the nature of our intelligence? Let us see the example of a little girl. This little girl name is Saraswati. And when Srila Prabhupada went to the Western world, and there he met several local people living in America, and by coming in contact with Srila Prabhupada, their lives were transformed. One of the earliest such persons was a person by the name Shyam Sundar Das and his wife Malati Devi Dasi. And this husband and wife were serving the mission of Srila Prabhupada very, very sincerely. And in due course of time, they had a child. This was the first child that was born within the community of devotees who were initiated by Srila Prabhupada. And this was a very, very special child because she was the first such child that was born. And Srila Prabhupada took a very special care, special interest in this child. From a very young age, Saraswati, as she was called, Prabhupada gave her the name Saraswati. Saraswati Devi Dasi. That was the name given by Prabhupada to this child. So from a very, very young age, she was in frequent association of Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada was very proud of her because she was exhibiting symptoms of a Krishna conscious child in all situations. Prabhupada would, any program where this child was present, this child would come in front of the stage and immediately endear the audience, and the audience will start chanting or dancing more enthusiastically, more eagerly. Srila Prabhupada would often quote and often give example of this child, how he would say, this girl Saraswati is just 5 or 6 years old. And when she meets somebody, she asks, do you know who is Krishna? And the person will say, Krishna, no, I'm not sure. And immediately she will say, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. See, this is the meaning of Guru. And he would say this, and how he would give the example of this little girl Saraswati, and how it's a Krishna consciousness is such an easy process that even a child can understand and fully embrace it. An innocent person without preconceived notions, when such a person takes to Krishna consciousness, that the love for Krishna fills the heart of that person, and the intelligence becomes purified, and the convictions are 100% fully based on the faith and devotional service. So this he would give as an example as how the process is actually very simple and anybody can take it, even a small child. So our conviction could either be in our objects of sense gratification, or they can be in the strength of the devotional service, the strength of the scientific process of devotional service. Our choice, our intelligence should dictate. We should use our intelligence to say that I want to shift my convictions from the objects of sense gratification to the process of devotional service. That will take us towards Samadhi. That will take us towards fixing up of our mind on the self, the supreme self, and the relationship between us. So let us take a look, one more closer look at this conviction. We are attracted to certain principles or certain situations. And then as we experience those situations, we develop an attachment for those situations. When we experience the situation and we have developed an attachment to the situation, by contemplating on that situation more and more, because when a person is attached to something, he's constantly thinking about that. Oh, how can I experience this again? And they develop a positive, there is in our mind, there is a positive relationship with that situation or that object or that process. There is a positive relationship. And let us say that is called attachment. So when you're attached to a situation, then automatically you want to experience it again and again and with positive energy. And when you do this again and again, then that turns into an addiction. So there's attraction leading to addiction, attachment, which leads to addiction, which means now you are fully convinced that this is actually giving me joy. And that turns into a pleasure conviction. It becomes a firm conviction that this is the way I can enjoy. So this process of attraction, attachment, and addiction, which is leading to pleasure conviction, these are the three things that we need to look at to see how we can shift these things from objects of material sense gratification to the process of Krishna consciousness. The opposite of these, because sometimes when we want to negate something, we need to know, okay, if I don't have attraction, what should I have? What should instead of attraction, what should I feel? So actually, as far as the material sense objects are concerned, we should feel repulsion, detachment, and instead of addiction, we should have freedom. So our current state is we are attracted to objects of sense gratification. We are attached to the objects of sense gratification. We are addicted to the objects of sense gratification. So from this state, we have to go to the state of repulsion, detachment, and freedom. Now the problem is that our conviction has been there from lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Probably we have been in the body of the pig and the camel and the goat and the parrot, all of them. Because after transmigrating through 8.4 million species of life, finally we have come to this human form of life. So all these forms of life, our pleasure conviction is so deeply attached. How can we possibly come out of this? It is a humongous mountain to climb. Actually, it is not possible without divine intervention. And this is where, with intelligence, we have to use the process that has been given, because it is actually the process that helps us get out of and change the attraction, attachment, addiction from material sense gratification into Krishna consciousness and generate repulsion, detachment, and freedom from the sense objects. So this shifting of conviction from sense gratification to Krishna consciousness to Krishna actually is brought about by a very special spiritual process, a scientific process that if we follow, the result is guaranteed. And that process is to humbly pray while chanting the holy names of the Lord. So while praying, while chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. We have to beg for the blessings of the Lord, the blessings of that very sound incarnation, Nama Prabhu. This Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare is actually one person. The 16 names actually constitutes one person or one incarnation of Nama Prabhu. And this one person can actually bless us with the power to shift our attraction, attachment, and addiction from the material sense objects to the name, qualities, and pastimes of Nama Prabhu, of that very Nama Prabhu that we are chanting at that point. So if I am chanting right now, this one instance of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This incarnation of Nama Prabhu who has currently come on my tongue, that very Nama Prabhu, if we associate with that Nama Prabhu by hearing appreciatively, then in a helpless mood, begging for this specific benediction, then that very Nama Prabhu, who is Nama Chintamani Krishna, who is the Chintamani, who can fulfill all our spiritual desires, has in fact unlimited ability, and wants us to get out of this addiction, or wants to get out of this conviction in false beliefs of pleasure. So when we pray, when we beg Nama Prabhu for this mercy, this particular mercy, he will bestow this mercy. So this is a very powerful process that has been given to us, and we can take it up. Next time when you're chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, I think all of us on the call here are chanting on a daily basis. So when you're chanting, please observe, hear appreciatively the name, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra that you're chanting, and beg for mercy of from Nama Prabhu to transfer these beliefs that we have got, very deep-rooted convictions that we have got, that these objects will give us pleasure, to transfer that into the conviction that actually the unlimited reservoir of pleasure, Raso Vai Saha, the unlimited reservoir of pleasure, is actually Nama Prabhu himself. He has already appeared in front of us, and that very Nama Prabhu is the unlimited reservoir of pleasure. So that conviction we should have, and Nama Prabhu himself is the giver of that conviction, but we can beg him to give us that conviction. This conviction in Nama Prabhu is not something that one externally gets from another place. It is not that, for example, I have got only so much wealth in my bank, I have to work hard, somebody will give me wealth, then I become wealthy. So it is not that kind of a process. It is said in Chaitanya Charitamrita that actually this conviction in Nama Prabhu's sweetness, in the attractive nature, is already present in our heart, but we have forgotten that. And this relationship and this knowledge that is already present in our heart can reawaken if we follow the process of hearing and chanting, chanting and hearing. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunaya Shravanadi Suddha Chitta Kare Udaya. So Shuddha Chitta, or purified consciousness, is something that can result, the consciousness when it's purified will naturally reawaken this love for Krishna in our heart, which is already present. So, and what is the process of purification? By hearing and chanting. Shravanadi Shuddha Chitta Chitte Kare Udaya. So this process of chanting and hearing, or hearing and chanting, essentially is when we do our sadhana, when we are chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra every day, we have to hear appreciatively. Now, this attraction, if you see, there is the Nama Prabhu is actually Krishna himself. Right? He is a Nami. Nama, Abhinnatvam Nama Namino. And we know that Krishna is Sachidananda Vigraha, Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishna, Sachidananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. So Krishna Sachidananda and the Nama Prabhu, holy name that is appearing, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, is also Sachidananda. And in every incarnation of Nama Prabhu, Sachidananda energy is present in unlimited quantity. Unlimited Sachidananda is present. So we have to pray to the Lord, beg for the mercy that I am your eternal servant. And for a servant, there is no other means of pleasure than to serve the Lord. So if a helpless servant, a good servant is one whose prime duty, who places in his life the prime duty of serving the Lord, serving his master, right? That's a good servant. So, but that servant, let us say he has got some other activities, he wants to do something else on the side, then at that time he's not serving his master. Correct? So for us to be a good servant, for us to reawaken our relationship, for us to be fixed in ourselves, which means for us to see the Supreme Self and us and understand the relationship between us, it is implied that we must not want to undertake any other objective in our life than to please our master. But in order to do this, we have to remove the other goals that we have in our life. That because there are other pleasure-giving goals that we have got. That, oh, serving the master definitely gives me pleasure. But there are also other things that give me pleasure. So let me divide my time. That 2 hours I will chant, and during the chanting time, maybe I will not think about other things. But at other times in the day, I will plan for future. I will undertake all kinds of party activities. I will plan for get-togethers. I will go on frequent sense gratificatory outings and various other plans. That is a direct contradiction of the very prayer that we are having during our chanting. So if we want to remain a good servant, then we must also pray that not only during this period of chanting, but during the entire day, today, because today as I am chanting, please today I want to remain your servant. Which means today, my whatever Satchidananda potency you have got, that Ananda potency, please bestow that upon me so that I get attracted to you. See, the Ananda potency results in love. Love comes from attraction. So which means in order for us to be for us to develop our Krishna Prema, we must be attracted to Nama Prabhu. Therefore, kindly allow, I beg you to allow your Ananda potency to kindly attract me towards you. And please allow your knowledge potency to reawaken my intelligence, awaken my chit, so that I can understand my relationship with you better. And then please allow your Sat potency to make me realize my eternal nature, to reinstate me as your eternal servant. So this kind of a prayer, this kind of a feeling, feelingly if we chant with this idea that your Satchidananda potencies, which are unlimited, only if I can draw from that, only that is the only way by which I can convert my attraction from the sense objects onto your holy name. So this is the prayer that we should have. So there are a few more things I can talk about, but then I think at this point, I'll just pause here and see if you have any questions in what we have discussed so far. It's very important that we should have the understanding that the scientific process of Krishna consciousness that has been given to us is shanaihi, it's a gradual step-by-step process. But compared to other processes that happens very, very soon, if we follow the process as it is given to us, which is the process of associating with devotees, sadhu sangha, adho shraddha, tatha sadhu sangha, tatha bhajana kriya. Bhajana kriya process includes the chanting, satisfying the devotees, which means book distribution and other services that are given to us. And to have the spiritual strength to do all of this, to have the taste to do all of this, we have to follow the most fundamental part of this, which is chanting with attentive hearing in appreciation. So for this, there is a soulful japa module that has been shared by the president of ISKCON Bangalore, His Grace Madhu Pandit Prabhu. And the PowerPoint, you can ask Prabhu to share, and that if you follow that, it will help you with these infusing our heart with the right kind of feelings, so that when we are chanting, we have appreciation for Nama Prabhu and we are able to hear attentively. Any questions? one very important thing that we have to do is to introspect on our faith, on where it is. If we do not recognize our deeply held convictions, it is not possible to get out of it. Because we may have a false understanding. So actually, I am full faith in Krishna, full faith in chanting. We falsely think like this. Actually, we have got no faith. Because the moment you have faith, the moment we chant with conviction, the transformation is unimaginable. We would no longer have a tendency for undertaking sense gratificatory activities at all. But because we have got that very, very weak conviction in the taste for holy name, taste for chanting and hearing, but we have got immense amount of conviction carried from time immemorial on sense gratificatory activities. That is why our association with sadhu, association with devotees is not as fruitful, as powerful as it can be. So we have to at least recognize this. That is an important step. Srinidhi Mataji, any thoughts? Bhagavad Tattva Prabhu.
So one takeaway from this class, Prabhu, is that 3 A's. So attachment, attraction leads to attachment, attachment leads to addiction. So and that leads to pressure conviction. So this is one of the takeaways from this class, and this should be counteracted by so repulsion and detachment and freedom. So that's what talked about.
Maximum. Yeah. So he was summarizing the takeaway, attraction and repulsion. Yes, Prabhu. But then that counteraction has to be done by begging for the mercy of Nama Prabhu. That is the key point there. Because we are lacking the strength to do it on our own. If we actually observe our futile attempts to do this and see just how much of an abject failure we are and how powerless we are against the forces of nature, the forces of modes of material nature that are acting upon us, and how we are helplessly being flowing in the direction of wherever the material modes of nature are taking away. If we actually observe this, we will understand our helpless condition. And with that is the helplessness that we must have, that feeling of helplessness when we have during chanting, that will help. That will bring about the actual prayerful mood. Because if we believe that actually I can do this on my own, then the helplessness will not be there and the prayer will be very weak. Then Krishna will say, all right, you do it on your own. No, why are you asking me?
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Today's class you have given the example of Saraswati Devi Dasi, and she was the first child in Krishna conscious family. So like what I understood from here, that in the pot maker, like actually the pot maker is taking the soil and means whatever shape he actually wants to make, he can. Right, the same way we in our also means life means how much we are putting ourselves into Krishna consciousness.
Prabhu, I'm not able to hear very clearly. Can you please speak up just a little bit? Can I, maybe
Yes,
the mic I can put it. Please give me a minute. I'm going to go.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Yes, can you please repeat?
Yes, Prabhu. Today, you have taken one example of the Saraswati Devi Dasi. Right?
Yeah.
So, she was the first Krishna conscious child, right? So actually, from very beginning, she had got the perfect association,
Correct.
and gradually, without any much trouble, she she actually became a full Krishna conscious devotee,
Yes.
right? So the same way means our consciousness,
Hmm.
wherever we are, so it is actually making our uh, uh, like it like we are actually making the shape of our life into Krishna consciousness, or means how much we are in the means Maya consciousness.
Is that a question or a comment?
Yeah, Prabhu, there is no any question. I'm just
Question. You're asking a question.
no.
No.
Uh, I am just uh, giving the example. Prabhu,
Example.
yes, please.
Um,
So, so the same way means we have to put our
Same way. Yeah.
diligence.
So what is that same way? What is that same? What is it that we can take from the example of Saraswati? So if you see that, it is actually the childlike innocence, which means absence of preconceived notions. So that the perfect association that she received is not, of course, she received perfect association from Srila Prabhupada. But in Srila Prabhupada's life, there were many people who met him. Not everyone took up Krishna consciousness the same way. Right? Some people did not take. Some people did not take. But she took. Why? Because she had no preconceived notions. So even in our own life, we are getting the same exact association from Srila Prabhupada in his books. Srila Prabhupada has said, I live in my books. Correct?
Yes.
When we serve Srila Prabhupada, then we get the association. When we read his books, we get the association. We also get association from senior devotees. Correct? So that association can be equally powerful if we are able to recognize our these convictions that we have got in other things. Saraswati did not have any such convictions, right?
Right.
But we have got the previous convictions in our sense gratificatory activities. So those convictions, because of those convictions, we are not able to take advantage of the association that we are in fact getting. So it's actually with us on how we take advantage of those association, and for us to overcome this conviction, the false convictions that we have, convert it to conviction in Nama Prabhu, in the Ruchi, in the taste for chanting Nama Prabhu and hearing the Bhagavatam, hearing Bhagavatam. If you want to convert it to that, then we have to beg for the mercy of Nama Prabhu, because he has got all those potencies. So while chanting, we have to beg for that mercy. And then, of course, we have to restrain ourselves later on. We should think, oh, I have begged for the mercy from Nama Prabhu, and now I'm organizing a party. What is this? It's contradictory, correct? You cannot go in and on one hand beg for mercy, and on the other hand, you go on planning for sense gratificatory activities. So we have to make our effort, full effort, whatever effort we have got based upon our destiny, our power that has come because of our prarabdha karma, right? Everyone has different powers. So based on those powers, we have got ability to organize so many sense gratificatory activities. But with our whatever current consciousness power is there, we should make our full 100% effort to curb those things. But we should be aware that the modes of material nature are so strong that simply by seeing one picture on the internet, our mind can get carried away. It is for that unintentional those situations that we beg for the protection from the Supreme Lord.
Yes.
Okay, request all of you to please come on the camera. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की, जगत गुरु शीला प्रभुपाद की, निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे।